Well, look at how you have me. You know what? You are royalty. You really are. And you just made my day by hitting play. And thank you for tuning into this edition of Richard's Rant. And let's begin with good morning. As you know, the morning is the best part of the day before anything has gone wrong, or simply to say, gone astray. And that energy of promise and perfection, of comfort, is what I am wishing to you throughout your entire day. Not that feeling of when you now get up and you don't want to get out of bed all the time because the bed is comfortable, but and you are weighed down by what you have to do for the day. But just that feeling, that split second of, oh, the bed is so comfortable, my life is awesome. Oh, that's what I had to do today. That split second, that feeling, that's what I wish for you to just envelop you and go through the rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in. As you know by now, the rants are pre-recorded and not always released in order. Sometimes beyond our or control, sometimes it's just serendipity or randomness. So if this one is released in recording order, then the last one would be non-generic. And this one, I want to call it full generic. So we're going to go full G on this rant. Full generic. Which is really, it's not to be confused with fully dense. Because as established on, well, just in case you were making that comparison, because clearly I was, so maybe I just put that out there. But being generic does have a place. It is just that many people use that as an excuse for mediocrity and for not doing their best and for turning a blind eye, for absolving themselves of responsibility and general lack of action that is so badly needed, especially if we are to get to that next level where we can actively decide, okay, it's my time to die and move on, or it's my time to go and work on colonizing other planets that we could just continue being immortal throughout the entire solar system forever because the universe is infinite. So why can't our lives be infinite? I'm gonna be fed up on one planet, we just go on the other one. But if all of us just titivane on Earth and enjoying the sun, sea, sand, beach, snow, and whatever else we want, and having children, we run out of resources. So okay, at the ripe old age of 500, I am now going to spend the rest of my days working on us colonizing other planets in the solar system. If, dying is just too much. Well, at one point, I guess we would find out if the solar system really is limitless. But that would be kind of cool. Everyone living forever and living on different planets. It's kind of cool. Except, of course, you'll be conquering internal deaths, not external. Still have everything else externally that could kill you, including other humans. But then how do we still make those decisions, like experimenting on children to know what could kill them so we can make medicines to save them? Isn't life funny that way? And that is probably the real purpose of nature giving us psychopaths and serial killers and this sort of thing, so that they can make those decisions and maybe even document their findings as they cut people up and whatever have you. Hey, maybe they could be used for executing people. Maybe that's what children in juvenile detention should be. Alright, so you seem to be a menace to society, but this is why we like society. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to force you to help society by experimenting on you. I sure children would behave themselves after that. Easy peasy. And the ones that die along the way, we give them a medal, and they would be heroes. But how many of us listening to this are cringing at what? Not my child, and all this kind of thing? Because, well, we're not ready yet. So, I would begin with my feelings, my potent conjecture, if you would, towards the fact that Caribbean Airlines have made losses. I fully accept that I do not understand much about, well, many things actually, which kind of contradicts the rant. But there's a saying, common sense before book sense, which could just be instincts, which could just be deductive reasoning. That's the foundation of man learning all of these things and creating this tapestry of rules that we box and cage ourselves into on a daily basis in the guise of it being safe and creating a society that's beneficial to all, yet still in the makeup of that society, crime and poverty is a feature of that society, or lack of choice and lack of freedom. Those are the two options we have, which would be a socialist communist or communist socialist, same thing, a socialite of a communist, or or the free market democratic capitalist situation. Those are the features. So we have made those choices already. That for some of us to be free and rich, some of us will be poor, and some of us will turn to crime. So we have made those decisions, but we haven't made it consciously, or maybe someone made it for us, and we were just born into it. Whatever it may be, what I know is that first we had British West Indian Airways, and we couldn't keep that shit afloat. For whatever reason, I do not know. I really do not know. Other airlines around the world able to keep this shit together, but the Caribbean and Trinidad seems to be having that issue. Not only with BWIA, but also Liat. And Liat is owned by the Caribbean, so it's multiple governments failing at this shit. And I think it had another one, but the keyword was think, unless I'm thinking Caribbean Airlines, which is BWIA. Rebranded. That's still failing. Same shit, different package. Why? I think Air Jamaica might be doing good. Don't really hear much negativity on Air Jamaica, so they may be in a gear. So actually, let's Google. We're going to Google. Now, one of the beauties of doing recordings is that you could go back and snip out when I started talking about Air Jamaica, and I could just make it more put together. But nah, want to keep the authenticity, you know? We talking, we vibes in, we bubbling, mental juices flowing, because we thirsty for change, or moet, or both. Why can't it be champagne flavored change? We have champagne flavored problems. Nevertheless, Air Jamaica is also in shit. So the Caribbean just seem to not be able to run an airline. And I'm going to Google again, because let's see who is able to run an airline. Of course, none of this was in the newspaper. Tired talk about that. So doing something about it, because if I keep talking about it, then I'm doing the same shit that I just complain about. Talk, and no fucking change. So hold a moment, please. But for you, it's just going to be well, instant, because I'm pausing the recording. Wouldn't it be great if we could do this with life? Whew. Alright, so I'll come back 15 minutes later, new perspective. Maybe this is what they speak about in the Bible and other religious books about time moving differently in different realms, or in heaven as opposed to on earth. Because for you, there's no time that passed. For me, 10 minutes have passed. What if we are just a recording for one very long series or movie? Or maybe the characters on downtime when nobody is pressing play. Maybe when we dream, that's when we actually working. Anyway, a Google search as to the top airlines in the world did not yield any results that included airlines owned by governments. So it seems that our government is not especially incompetent. They're generic. They're basic. The top airlines are Delta, American, Lufthansa, or maybe it's a different language like Lufthansa or something. United Airlines, Air France, KLM, IAG is another one, that's number 6. Southwest Airlines, China Southern Airlines, All Nippon Airways, and China Eastern Airlines. So those are the top ones. They are based on revenue that they made as well as total assets overall and the amount of passengers that they receive. So, in the same order, their profits were 4.1 billion, this is in US, 4.1 billion, 1.4 billion, 2.6 billion, 2.3 billion, 0.5 billion, 3.4 billion, 2.5, 0.5, 0.9, and 0.4. Alright, some of them, and you see the numbers are different because they may have been a little bit low in that money metric but higher in others, especially assets. For example, American Airlines is number 2 because they have way more assets than Lufthansa at number 3. Now Lufthansa to me is the only non-generic because when we look at the top airlines according to customers, so whether they're on time, the performance, the quality of their service, and their claim processing when things go wrong, we have Virgin Atlantic at 8.4 out of 10, Air Malta 8.9, sorry, that's 8.04 and 8.09, because that's how close the rankings were. QUANTAS, it's not Spanish, so I'll just spell it in English. That's 8.12. Aegean Airlines, hope I pronounced that right, that's 8.19. Austria Airlines 8.29. South African Airways, happy that they made it, 8.31. Yeah, just natural racial bias that majority of me is African, so glad an African country in it. Still racism, but never professed to be perfect. Singapore Airlines 8.33. Ethiopia, another one, can't even pronounce my so-called heritage, 8.43. And then we have Lufthansa 8.52 and Qatar Airlines, not to be confused with Qantas or the one that I spelled before. This list, however, I did it backwards, so that was some 10 to 1. Sorry about that, should have been more consistent. I'm actually working on that in my personal life as well. So this one was 10 to 1. So Lufthansa is number 2 on this one, and Lufthansa is number 3 for money. So they are the only non-generic airline because you see they have successfully mastered, I would say mastered, both. And I'm quite pleased with myself because instinctually I was pronouncing it correctly. By the way, the recording was paused, little Googling happened in between, but not long this time, just about 2 minutes. Really messing with this thinger because this is really how time could be manipulated, like science fiction movies, how they say that time, there's string theory that you may have remembered from the sitcom Big Bang Theory, which shows that time is like a ball of yarn. It's not linear, it's not a straight line in a ruler, it's just shit happening all the time at the same time. So it's possible for you to skew it, push time through a skewer, and you would intercept various events throughout the timeline by moving in a linear or straight line. Just like, because that was railroads right there. So the simple thing would be like the equator on the globe. It's one line, and if you follow that one line, you will go through many different countries, cultures at the same time. Or if you split the world in half from pole to pole instead, so along its axis, and you go through that one line, you would intercept different time zones, different days, depending on the side of the globe, different days altogether, and different temperature and all of that happening, all on the same line. So it's the same thing with time. So yeah, kind of blowing my mind, because my belief in the supernatural, science fiction, and other stuff, including religion for that matter, is the fact that if we are able to, we do not possess the power to master our universe, our, situation. But even with our weakness, we can do supernatural crap that we take for granted. It blows my mind. Take, for example, this Rant. This Rant is existing in multiple realities at the same time, depending on who is playing it. It's in the same place. It could be in the same place, let's say YouTube, for example. So it's existing, one thing existing in that place, but by different people streaming it, it's also existing in multiple places at the exact same time. Just like how they say God is everywhere at the same time, and all you need to do is call him. It's literally the exact same thing. By streaming this content or anything else, you are having it everywhere at the same time, and you're calling it, just like when you say a prayer. The whole thing with something existing 3 in 1, but it's one. Simple. If you download the Rant, doesn't it exist in multiple places at the same time? Infinite in one. Just like Hinduism gods and Catholicism with the 3 Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's the exact same thing. And the whole thing with spirits and Obia and all of these things. Obia is quite simple. Bluetooth. Your shit quite over here, but you're hearing it quite over so. That's Obia right there. Something that you did, you run a script, you run a program to effect something without actually physically doing a damn thing. That is Obia. And the next thing with I forget the last one, but I think I make my point. The last one had to do with something with messages being altered. So like if I send you a message, you could alter that message and change it. So then the timeline would have split for that message, and it's now different messages existing differently. You could delete it. So in this timeline, you died, but in this next one, you're alive because you're alive on my phone. But when I sent it to you, it was deleted. That's a different timeline. And these are things that we all have control of. Cell phone waves going through stuff, same thing, like ghost and supernatural stuff going through stuff. Mediums, people that are able to tap into spirituality and tell you what shit going on there and talk to the dead and all of this thing. Any device that could receive a radio frequency, your cell phone for example, your Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi streaming a whole bunch of crap from all over the world through your skin, through your body, everything. You can't see shit. You can't stick out your hand or your eye and then suddenly tune into Netflix. You need a medium. Your computer, Android, whatever have you. Why can't it have human mediums? It's all right there. And if we could do it, and TTV, just for our convenience, it must have something more powerful than us that made us, that caused us to be here, that created whatever. So, or it could just be sheer will. Because as I firmly believe, for there to be nothing, and meaning nothing at all, the only way it could have nothing is for something to exist. That's the only way that you could get nothing. If you have nothing to compare it to, then it will be nothing. Therefore, it wouldn't exist at all. So you need to have something for it to exist. And I hope that that is not too confusing. But in order for there to be cold, there has to be hot. Otherwise, cold would just be normal. That's just where it is. It do have more than one sun in the sky. It's just the sun. But the sun is hot and all of these things. And because it have other things in the sky, you could compare it to. So if it was only the sun in the sky, then the sun will be called sky. That one a little bit vague, but I think it was easier to understand. but it could also be thrown out by people that understood the first one. But same concept. So it's just amazing to me and hopefully to you. Yes, so now that we finished talking about the laws of physics and relativity, as though I have a doctorate or on some good weed, let's return to the actual situation, which is Lufthansa is actually German, so instinctually I said it correctly. And well, we know German, they have great respect for everybody. And as far as I'm concerned, they're trying to overcompensate to the world for Hitler. So they're the only ones that got it complete. Everyone else seems to either be working towards money or working towards customer care or trying to work towards money through customer care. But it seems that it just has to do with money. Branding, maybe some coercion in the case of China might be, I'm assuming, coercion doesn't necessarily mean fly this airline or else. It could also mean I'm not gonna let you operate, I'm not gonna let you do these routes, I'm not gonna no, you're just not approved. You declined. And that kind of thing. Intimidation could be a whole bunch of stuff. So all of this now, and I thank you for taking this journey with me. And of course, I had no idea that this is where it would have gone, since none of this was in the newspaper. So welcome to Richard's Rant. So welcome to Richard Rant. Yeah, you got a little pause there again, because I didn't know what came after newborn. The rant... Oh, I skipped. Okay, sorry. So welcome to Richard's Rant Infant Edition, because before we were newborn, and now we are transitioning. A little bit more than 2 months old, so we're growing. Listen, when I say we, I do mean you as well. Thank you. So, in the infant edition, instead of bitching about the newspaper, doing something about it. But because the rant is still unscripted, this is new. It means that it's when the idea pops up, instead of saying, well, why don't they and I don't know, I'd say, hold a moment. And let's see if we can find the answer. So all of this, if you remember, quite some minutes ago, was to figure out if it is our government is particularly shitty at running airlines. And they're not. They're generic, they're basic, they're right on point. And the top airlines in the world, both by customer care and money, are privately owned. So maybe governments can't run an airline. I don't know why, I don't believe why, because they're educated and all of that. Their credentials are no different from a CEO. I would say that maybe it would be their motives for the people, but air travel is not a necessity, like say education or public health or public safety. So I don't see why the government will not have the main objective as revenue, especially since the airlines that are government owned are mainly just the government controlling the majority or a significant portion of the shares. They have a board of directors and all of that, just like FCB is a government bank, but it does have their other shareholders and a board of directors. So I do not necessarily think that it is impossible for a government to own a successful airline. However, evidently, that level of thinking is non-generic. So we're right on point. We fully G with the fucking up of yet another airline. Caribbean Airlines claim that they made losses because of COVID. So my 100% conjecture is Caribbean Airlines made losses because of poor management. I am not 100% sure if it is their limitations were curtailed by Corona. How is it that they would have incurred losses? Unless, of course, they had recurring expenses that are just too fucking high. Or they were making losses before. So if they were making losses before then it means that Corona had nothing to do with it. You were always incompetent, and Corona is a scapegoat. If it is they are only now making losses, it's still poor management, in my opinion, because why do you have all of these expenses that you cannot sustain yourself? You're not a person, you're a business. A person can say that, they're living month to month or hand to mouth, but a business is supposed to have assets and other sources of income. Businesses could invest in the stock market and other businesses, they could purchase other airlines and all of these things. So it means that you're just not managing your business money correctly, because the main function of a business is to make money, is not to make money through one avenue or anything like that. That is why businesses buy their competitors and have shares in their competitors and all of that. I stand to be corrected, but I believe Samsung has shares in Apple, or Apple in Samsung, or the board of directors, and one is also be consulted or part of the board of directors in the other one, or some kind of shit. It's just we just be buying it. And the top luxury brands in the world all owned by one company whose job it is just to have and market and maintain luxury brands. All of the top luxury brands and all categories, some Rolls-Royce to Moet, owned by one company. So still poor management, any way you slice it. However, it's also pure conjecture, anyhow you slice it. Now I'm trying to read some crap of what's handwriting here. If they were making... Oh, that's the same thing I said. Lastly, now I reached out to someone to try to get some information here, but I'm not sure I had the correct opportunity, time, or that I did a good job at conveying the point. But I'll explain. In my opinion, Trinidad's borders are closed, so the airline is grounded. And we already have airplanes that fly domestic, Trinidad to Tobago. So, since it is, the borders are closed, and other people's borders are closed, and if it is you fly to another country, you'll have to quarantine and all of this drama. My humble suggestion was, but this person shut it down and said that we don't have the resources and it simply would not be economical. But I beg to differ, because I'm non-generic, and where I see a will, there must be a way to get to it. It's not be conventional, but there must be a way. So why don't we have commercial flights that are domestic? So you know that you're trapped at home, you're upset, you want to get out there, or whatever have you. You fly around Trinidad, give a little tour of Trinidad from the air. You get to go up in a plane, you get to entertain your children, you get to have a little date, that kind of thing. You could even, maybe for really rich people, I guess, do deliveries from Trinidad to Tobago, or Trinidad or Tobago to the other airport. Because Trinidad actually has 3 airports, Trinidad and Tobago has 3 airports, not 2. The third one, because I assume you would know the first 2. The third one is the Camden Airfield in Couva. So it's possible to take a flight from Tobago to Couva, just for the fun of it, and back. It's still domestic, it'd have no quarantining, and people would do that. Now, you could have also turned the experience into some sort of a party-like atmosphere, maybe music, maybe alcohol served. The ideas and the execution are limitless, but it wasn't even proposed. Now, what the person was saying is that wouldn't be cost effective, and I could get that, because that's like a 2-minute flight kind of thing, or even if you fly around Trinidad. But I beg to differ, because you can rent an aircraft for between $1,500 and $2,500, the same amount that most of us pay in rent per month. You could have an airplane date, just you and whoever, or if you could fly, yeah, you could actually do that. So if every person on the plane is paying $2,500 just for that, I'm not seeing why it can't be done. And as ridiculous as it might seem, it's very practical. People just pay $4,000 a month in rent and they on the lower income scale, which means that this is a product that many people theoretically should be able to afford just because they want to come out of the house. Now, apart from that, we already have established prices to reach further destinations. In the US and wherever, we have the pricing for that. Do the damn flight. Why not just do the flight? You may or may not be able to touch down, but that's just logistics. For example, let's say you fly from Trinidad to Miami. Whatever the cost is for a return flight, you charge as normal. And in most cases, the plane would have fuel to make that trip round. Do it so you didn't even touch down in Miami, or if you need to touch down in Miami, do your mechanics. The people had to stay on the plane, so no quarantining needed when they come back. And you get a plane ride that's 8 hours, 4 hours to go, 4 hours to come back, or the same time that you just spend in traffic going to work playing the ass. So 4 hours to 4 hours through. And they could fly a little bit lower, and the flight attendant could double as a tour guide. I mean, but I firmly believe that this is what happens when humans are comfortable. If it is your ass was uncomfortable and you had to get that airplane working, otherwise you and your family would die, you would find a way. That's my theory. You would find a way. Another thing is that I really hope that you will not hear any background noise because it really upsetting me, and I'm doing my best and I'm hearing that more than I'm hearing me. But I'm not quite seeing it on the level, so I'm really hoping for the best, especially in post. But that's another example of generic. Because you now discover a Bluetooth speaker, all of us had to share it with you, and your Bluetooth speaker not even fucking sounding good. It have no levels, no nothing. It's like you buy the last old first time model of Bluetooth speakers. And if it is you tell you something, now you want it go lead to a fight. But then again, if it is we wasn't quarantining for this blasted disease, people wouldn't be doing this shit to try to mellow out the vibe. So we all have to deal with each other's annoyances. Anyway, I forget where I was. I'm not gonna pause the recording. We're gonna find back ourselves together. So, right. We live in a country where people spend tens of thousands of dollars on carnival. A costuming tribe is like 9,000, all kind of madness, these unfathomable amounts of money. So you really telling me we couldn't have find a way to convert that money into income through Caribbean Airlines? You for real legit telling me that we couldn't do that? That's some fully G shit, if you ask me. Fully generic. It's generic in thinking, generic in branding, generic in execution, and I believe it's generally permitted because when it is you go to particular institutions, you learn to be generic because it's safer that way for everybody, and it's more profitable, and it is better for the algorithms and the statistics and the shareholders and the money, which is why most of the airlines themselves are not in the top for actually being an airline and vice versa. Then we have come to the end. Okay, I cannot do this story today. This is a big one, so I can't do that one. Didn't realize that we reached 34 minutes. So let me do the TTT thing and just quickly see if there's another story I can do. No, I don't want to do that one either. So I'll stop there. So, thank you so much for tuning in to Richard's Rant Infant Edition. This is the second infant. And you have a fantastic rest of your day. Alright? Share to your friends, people that might like it, people that would enjoy this. Comment towards our betterment and subscribe to the vibes.